Vivi, without a God being good or bad, how do we then set a moral standard?
We set a moral standard because we are not God. We are human beings, and our scale, these things do matter. There is a story of a man who once encountered God, and God said, "A billion years is a second for me. $1 billion is a cent for me. 1 billion worlds is just a small world for me." And the man said, "Oh God, can you give me just 1 cent?" And God said, "Just wait a second." So the idea is, if you are going to the scale of God, it becomes very different. And again, there is another story to explain, to illustrate the logical, that these are not that difficult logically. There is a criminal who was convicted, and he said, "It's not my fault, Your Honor. It was so ordained. This is what it says in my tradition, and that is, it's all decided by God." And the judge said, "Well, I'm going to give you 10 years imprisonment, but it's not my will. This is how God had done it." So you see that these things become, on our scale, we cannot transfer the absoluteness that we attribute to God.
But still, there is a standard that sets our future role in the karmic flow, in the reincarnation, whether we do better or do worse. That's not a standard that comes from us. That's a standard that exists outside in reality.
Absolutely. And the point, what I'm trying to make here is that it does not follow from the Hindu vision of God that there is no such thing as good and evil or sinful and virtuous and so on. Quite the contrary. What it says is we run into contradictions when we transfer these enormously significant relative categories to the Almighty and to the divine. So it is, as long as we are on the finite plane, as long as we interact as humans in society, we do need these differentiations between good and bad. But it will be in vain that we try to apply these same things to what we regard as God. And that's where the trouble is for theodicy or for the philosophical or the theological perspective.
But there is a standard that is set by the cosmic consciousness of good and evil. It's just that we're not able to apprehend that with our limited understanding.
Yes, we cannot transcend the limitations to which we are subject to reach a level at which these have more absolute values.
So as you look at your worldview, the fact that there are horrible evils in the world on a personal and global scale does not in any way interfere or leach out your belief in a cosmic consciousness.
It does not, because I do not regard cosmic consciousness as necessarily dictating the affairs on earth. The Brahman concept is not a he God or a she God who rewards good behavior and punishes bad behavior, but it is rather an undergirding spiritual reality that is present, ever present. And so that notion of the divine in the Hindu world is very different from the anthropomorphic God to which one is often accustomed. Even in the Hindu world, in the non-spiritual traditions, we do have gods engaging in fighting evil and so on in the mythopoesis of the tradition. But in the spiritual traditions, this notion is beyond that. And that's what I was trying to explain.
But still, there has to be a standard that is set beyond humans. So whereas God is, and I'm searching to try to appreciate this so I can feel it. So whereas God is not setting the good and the evil, yet there is a standard that is set that will determine our reincarnation in future lives.
Yes, but that standard, therefore, is related from the Hindu perspective to the notions of good and evil that are inevitably associated with the what you may call the created world of societies and civilizations. And essentially what it means is that when we talk about our standards of right and wrong, they are products of society and culture. And within this framework, if we want to explain consequences, then of course we accept the law of karma and so on. So whether those ideas of right and wrong are universal in the sense of transcending human nature and culture is a very difficult question. And I don't, between the laws of nature, which are universal, and the statutory laws, which are local within different countries, there is this unexplored or intriguing moral law, the world of moral law, and whether they exist in the universe independently or they are part of this complex web of human culture is an interesting question. So within the Hindu tradition, depending on the context in which we explore these things, we have different answers.